going to be making an automation based on stock age. Now, why would you want to do that? Why don't you want your items to get that old? Well, the biggest reason why sellers don't want that is because A, the longer you keep something stored at Amazon, the more you're going to accrue in terms of storage fees, which means more money leaves you and enters Amazon. And also just keeping yourself safe, whereby if you have something that you've seen will do well for a specific period of time, and you know that when that time comes to an end, it will likely lose its popularity and it's going to be really hard to sell it. You want to try and sell it in the time period that you've been looking at, ideally where it does really well. So there's a number of reasons why you might want to sell something before it reaches a certain age. And this is where the automation for stock age is going to come in super useful. So feel free to copy this as we go along. So this automation is absolutely airtight, and we are going to choose a condition. So what we're going to do is choose if stock age reaches and select an option. Now, where you start this really depends on what you want to do at whatever age. So when would you consider the stock old? To be honest, I imagine many of you would probably skip the 1 to 30 days old range and maybe the 31 to 60. But generally around here, I think this is when a lot of sellers would consider their items to be old. Obviously, it's whatever you see fit. So you could in theory do something like start there, and you might want to, let's say you're using a balance strategy, you might want to change your strategy to something a bit more aggressive just to see if you can push out a few more sales and obviously still hopefully achieve decent profit levels per sale, thanks to how the aggressive bumps up that price once it undercuts the buy box and secures it. So we're going to continue to use the condition of if stock age reaches, and we're going to choose the next time window after that, so 61 to 90 days. By that point, we might want to go to our minimum price. That seems logical to me. We might want to do that. If stock age reaches, and we'll choose the next day range after that. What we might want to do is choose something like this: decrease minimum price by, and let's do $1 or £1, and that will decrease our minimum price when the item reaches this age. And we could go on and on and on. So if stock age reaches, and we're just choosing the next age, the next time window along, and then setting whatever action it is that we want. Obviously we have a nice range in there to choose from, but something like this to me would make sense to follow it in roughly that kind of order, but obviously feel free to do it in whatever kind of order is going to suit you and your goals. Obviously please bear in mind, if you are doing something like decrease your minimum price by a certain amount, and you're going to apply that to a lot of items, just think about where the break even is roughly for all of those items. It could be that you're setting up multiple instances of this with different amounts that you're going to decrease the minimum price by, just to make sure that you are still making some money on the item. I would say break even is our worst case scenario. That's our last result. Obviously loss is really the worst case scenario, but if we can help it, and if the worst case for us is the break even, we can maybe get it to go there when it gets a bit older maybe. But yeah, the action is completely up to you. I would say as well, if you are choosing something like this, where you want to go a certain amount, say under the buy box price, say, just remember that this action won't go below your minimum price. The only thing that can alter your minimum price is the decrease minimum price. These are the only options that can exceed your set parameters. If you chose something like this where you want to go say $1 under the buy box, but let's say your minimum is only 50p below the buy box, say, or 50 cents below the buy box, it will only go to your minimum and it will just stay there. It won't be able to go any further down because that's your parameters locked in, which ultimately is keeping your repricing safe. But just bear that in mind. So if you are setting something like this but you know that it might conflict with your minimum, you might want to consider either decreasing your minimum instead via the automation, or via your inventory page and changing the minimum price in there. So please just bear that in mind. Obviously, when you are done with an automation, remember to save it, make sure it's toggled on, and you can go ahead and apply it to your item there, or you can do that in bulk via the CSV. So the bulk inventory, download a CSV and then just apply the automation, remembering to use the exact name that you set in here, and then the automation will be applied. But yeah, that will hopefully help us get rid of more of our stuff before it gets too old and we accrue more storage fees. It maybe phases out of popularity. Before all that stuff, this sort of thing will really help us out. So that is how you can make an automation based on stock age.